Hi, I'm Derick Markwell from Roborigger. Come inside and have a look. Roborigger is a product that's used on cranes to control the orientation of loads using a wireless remote control. By using a remote control, you don't need to have people near the loads, and so the operations are intrinsically a lot more safe. We also collect data from every lift so that the information is available on the internet on a cloud platform. This data delivers significant productivity and efficiency improvements. I'm a civil engineer by training. I went through the University of Queensland a long time ago. I've worked in the offshore lifting and construction industry as well as design. And now I've branched out to develop some of the ideas that I thought of during my career. I want to see if I can make them work. Roborigger is an idea that I came up with myself, and so I figured that it was better that I'd try and develop it myself because I had certain ideas about how I wanted to do it. It definitely is beneficial to have had co-founders in some ways to share the workload. But certainly from a technical development point of view, it's given me the freedom to develop it the way I felt it had to be developed. Many years ago, I saw some other devices that attempted to do what we're doing. Those devices use gyroscopes, and I thought that was a great idea, but they never actually worked. And so I've always been interested in trying to make it work, and we actually looked at gyroscopes. We then came up with another idea, which is to use a flywheel and a fan. And actually that works really, really well. So that's what's really differentiating us. We're the only people who are using this technology, and we've patented this for ourselves. The success to date is, I'd describe it as a long and winding road, and probably a bumpy road. It's never as straightforward as you expect, and obviously you get things like COVID interrupting you, you get challenges with the product where the product has either material problems or you have delays in delivery of parts. And in fact, the inability to source electronics in a timely manner has also been a very big challenge to us. International expansion has been also very difficult because we can't travel. And so we've had to learn how to try and train people and promote our product using teams, and that's really difficult. I think one of the high points we had was getting Multiplex involved very early on. Multiplex saw the product initially. They said this could be a real benefit to the safety of our operations, and then they promised some funding if we could get it to work. But we had to get it to work first. It had to be ready to go to site, and then we had funding. Once it got to site, once we had Multiplex on board, then that assisted us then with getting additional funding from Blackbird Ventures. So it starts a snowball rolling. Blackbird Ventures is Australia's largest venture capital company. One of the things about Blackbird was that I used to go and just meet them for coffee, and we were doing a demonstration down in Wollongong, and I had my high-vis boots, and I said, look, I'm just driving past. I was just going to drop in for a coffee at 10 o'clock. So at 10 o'clock I turned up in a ute in high-vis with a Roborigger on the back. They said, oh right, we've got the video links all linked up and everyone's in the boardroom for the pitch. I went, pitch? I came here for a coffee. So I went into the boardroom and said, right, I'll tell you all about Blackbird, and here I am in my high-vis and boots. And then we went outside, I turned it on and made a loud noise, and everyone said, oh wow, this is really cool. It was a completely unprepared pitch, and yet Blackbird said it was one of the best they had all year. Being based in WA is actually not too bad, it turns out. WA is much closer to the rest of the world than the east coast of Australia. In fact, we're in the same time zone as Southeast Asia, and we're in the same time zone as working with Europe. So we've got 2 or 3 hours of overlap with Europe, which allows us to basically interact with Europe in a very normal sort of manner. We also find that a lot of our equipment and parts come from either Asia or from Europe, and not having to go over to the East Coast first and then come back to Western Australia, we can get them direct from Europe. basically gives us better access to the world than the east coast of Australia. One of the other advantages of being in WA is that there's a really great innovation community. We're a little bit smaller than the rest of Australia, but everyone knows each other. And so what you find is that behind all of these shop fronts and industrial buildings out in suburban Perth, you find world-leading technology. And it's either world-leading technology that's made it or world-leading technology that's in the same state of development as ours. And so we have a great community to discuss and share ideas with. One of the big challenges with developing a product in Western Australia is that really we don't have much of a market here. Whilst we can actually get the green shoots coming out of the ground, we find that the mining companies are really looking for billion-dollar innovations that will change their whole business. They need to electrify their mine trucks or something as big as that. It's very hard to get your product out into the Western Australian market. On the other hand, being in Western Australia means that you've got to understand that your market is global. It's as much in Europe and Southeast Asia as it is in the eastern states. So it's a big advantage to us in a way. You start off thinking globally rather than locally. In terms of lifestyle in Perth, well, the reason I came to Perth was so that I could windsurf from 8 a.m. till 15 knots, and I stayed. Perth's a great place to live, and if you love living in the outdoors and working in an environment that gets you out in sunshine and fresh air, Perth is the place to be. With regards to government, it's a great place. We've had very, very strong support from the Western Australian government. There have been a number of grants that have actually allowed us to develop internationally competitive capability here in our workshop that we wouldn't have been able to develop if we didn't have those grants. The government's also very supportive of us in terms of promotion. With regards to the overlap of tourism and technology, people are encouraged to come to Perth because they've heard so much about it. And clearly having a company in a state that has so many tourist attractions, it's a great benefit to attracting people. I think it's essential to be part of the startup community. Not only do you have access to technical advice, you've got people developing electronics, you can find out the answers to a technical question, but you can also find out advice as to business direction, what's the best way of introducing your product to the Middle East or to Europe? Do you have any connections with a transport company? All of that sort of advice comes from this community, and without it, everything would be a challenge. Thanks for coming, and I'll see you at WestTech.